This can be a highly effective strategy to pay off your home loan in record time, but with the rule changes that have happened, the wrong approach could actually slow you down rather than see you be mortgage free a lot sooner. So what I wanted to actually step you through was the strategy that our clients are using currently and how that sort of looks and how that works, where I think it can actually come unstuck based on the changes in the rules that we've seen, and how we're approaching it so you're using your cash flow in the most effective way to try and pay off your home sooner. So the approach our clients are using is, in addition to having their home loan set up most effectively so that they're maximising the amount of cash flow that actually can go into their home loan to pay that off sooner, they're also using investment property in the background, which can actually help pay that loan off down the track. So let's say our start point is that we have $500,000 owing on our home loan. And what we do in addition to that is we go and buy an investment property. So for argument's sake, let's say that property is going to be $500,000. And the plan would be that over time that property would grow in value. So if we start at $500,000 today, let's say in about 10 years' time, that ends up doubling in value. And then we've grown out to basically 500,000 in equity. At that point in time, we could then actually sell that property, take the profit out of that 500,000, less obviously capital gains tax, and then apply those funds across to that property and clear that loan. All we're doing is effectively just buying one investment property, allowing that property to grow in value over time, sell the property and clear that debt. So a fairly straightforward approach. So until recently, if you're implementing that strategy, you would have typically expected that your whole costs in that property might have been around $250 to $300 a week. You would have been having a cash shortfall on that property. Like I said, might be $250 to $300 a week. Over a year, that might be somewhere between $10,000 to $15,000 out of your pocket. So we're paying money to hold that property, but the trade-off, of course, is that we're growing in value over here. So if we were reaching out $500,000, then on average, that means we're growing roughly $50,000 a year. So if you think about it, for every $10 to $15 you're paying out, you're basically getting $50 back. So that's a reasonable trade. And even if your numbers sort of slipped a little bit, and maybe you only got to 400,000, still got a fair bit of margin. Where the issues come in now, though, and this is where I see the potential risk with this strategy, is now with the change in the rules that those hold costs have actually ramped up quite a bit, out to somewhere around about $500 to $600 a week. So now, rather than paying out somewhere around about 10 to 15 grand a year, we're getting closer to 25 to 30 grand a year, or in that sort of ballpark. So we need a lot more things to go right to make this strategy work. But the other issue, of course, is if over here we're spending basically $30,000 a year to hold that property, that's money that's coming out of the home loan to cover that. So rather than channeling those funds into the home loan, we're shifting them across here to prop up that property. And if we're not getting the trade-off with the growth at the same time, then we could end up with that position 10 years down the track where the home loan, we haven't made a lot of inroads into it, and we haven't really built up an asset base here at the other side that we can sell. This strategy still can work, but what's going to matter more now is looking at property that's going to have a much better cash flow attached to it, so those hold costs are going to be much lower. So what we're doing with our clients is, rather than looking at properties that are going to cost $500 to $600 a week, we're trying to drive those hold costs down where we can get it to around about $100 to $200 a week, and sometimes even less. So much lower hold cost on that property. So basically we're looking at maybe somewhere between $5,000 to $10,000 a year out of pocket. If we're getting our roughly $50,000 a year in growth and we're paying out somewhere between 5 to 10, that's a pretty reasonable trade. Even if our numbers on the growth side slip, let's say it dropped down and we're only getting on average about $30,000 a year, if we're still only paying out 5 to 10, it's still sustainable. Our plans in terms of when we want to sell that property might get pushed out a little bit further, but nonetheless, we're still actually banking some growth along the way. The key thing is with this approach, we don't need everything to go perfectly. We're still focused on channeling the bulk of our cash into paying that home loan off as much as we can, but also hedging our bets by building an asset here in the background that might be able to accelerate that position down the track. And if you wanted a better understanding of how to find property with lower hold costs, the next video looks at a property with a holding cost of only $100 a week, so you might want to check that out.